Good afternoon, good afternoon. I'm Cliff Hughes.
Good afternoon, listeners. I'm Ricardo Brooks. Good afternoon, Sir Cliff.
Good afternoon, Ricardo.
All is well?
Yes, a lot to get through. Former U.S. President Donald Trump says he's supposed to be dead after Saturday evening's assassination attempt at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. A spectator was killed in the attack while two other people were seriously injured. The gunman who also died has been identified as a 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks.
Reports are that the U.S. Secret Service snipers killed the shooter after he fired 8 rounds. The former president could be seen touching his ear as the shooting unfolded before he was shielded by Secret Service and whisked off stage with blood on his face and into an SUV to safety. Trump said in a social media post that a bullet pierced the upper part of his right ear.
And in one of his first interviews since the incident, Trump said he felt he had been saved by luck or God. The former president said it was the most incredible thing that he happened to not only turn his head, but to do so at the right time. He says the bullet that grazed his right ear could have easily killed him. Here's the footage of what happened, courtesy of Fox News.
They see something that said, take a look at what happened. Oh.
Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here.
Okay, here, move it to the spare.
Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready.
We ready?
Shooters down. Shooters down.
Are we good?
Shooters down.
Shooters down. Are we good to move?
Shooters down. We're good to move.
We're clear.
We're
Let's
clear.
move.
We're clear.
Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head, it's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. Get the shoes.
Watch out.
Wait.
Those horrifying scenes at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, shortly after 5 last Saturday afternoon. Since then, the former president says he will be tearing up his speech that he had prepared for the opening for the Republican National Convention, which opened today, and he is of the view now that part of his mission is to unite the country. The current President Joseph Biden also has been stressing the need for unity given what took place last Saturday. Now, we're going to be turning to what's happening in America, the state of American democracy, and of course, the news this afternoon that former President Trump has named Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio as his vice presidential pick for the November elections.
What we saw on Saturday, what does it mean for America's democracy and the implications for global security? We're being joined by former U.S. Ambassador to Jamaica, Donald Tapia, and Senior Fellow at the Shorenstein Center at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, Professor Richard Parker. Professor, Ambassador, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let me begin with you, Professor Parker. For a Jamaican audience, a Caribbean audience, locate for us what's happening in American democracy, especially with the vile and vicious turn that we saw last Saturday.
American democracy has fluctuated in terms of its stability over its entire American history. This has been a country that has changed repeatedly with waves of immigration coming from different parts of the world. We're in the midst of one of those great expansions led by a fourth wave of immigration that's going on right now. As the nation changes, it creates tension, and people who consider themselves to be Americans first look on the new Americans as a danger and a threat. And we have lived this kind of fear, and we have lived this kind of threat of violence now at least half a dozen times since the founding of the Republic. That doesn't make it any more bearable or any more attractive or any more conducive to strengthening American democracy. What we have in Donald Trump is a candidate who has taken advantage of those fears, played on those fears, and excited antipathy by describing his political opponents as vermin and talking about millions of immigrants into the country as despicable and deplorable. And what we're seeing is what sustained use of that kind of rhetoric at the top produces at the bottom of American society.
Mm-hmm. And Ambassador Tapia, you've been a donor to Donald Trump. Of course, he chose you to be the point man here in Kingston. First of all, your reaction to what you witnessed on television on Saturday. And then, is the professor right that Donald Trump's rhetoric, yes, is at least partly responsible for where the country is now in terms of division?
Well, I fully disagree with what the gentleman just said. The thing is that what I saw the other night was terrible. We've got to always remember that freedom is very delicate, and that's what we have to handle. But when we have two parties that are fighting each other, not coming together, that's one of the things that has happened over the last 25 years, is a separation between people, between colors, between economic basis, and we've seen that. And it's actually fanned by people that you just heard, and also by the press. Read the press, and you'll see that it's not news; it's opinions, and that's what you're hearing is opinions of their personal life or their personal thoughts and so forth.
But Ambassador, it is a fact that Donald Trump has said that immigrants, for example, are poisoning the blood of America. It is a fact that he has said that immigrants are coming to invade and to infest America. He has used that kind of language.
The first, yes. Poisonous language should not be used by any candidate.
And so do you accept that poisonous language has divided the country?
A country is not a country without a border. And we have no border. You cannot just let people come into your country unvetted. And that's what we have done. We have opened our borders to let people come in. We have a system that they could come in through the front door instead of opening the border and having them flooding that we don't even know who's coming into the United States. This is something that, as I said, a country is not a country without a border.
We're talking developments in America, especially with the attempted assassination last Saturday of former President Donald Trump, where the former U.S. ambassador to Jamaica, Donald Tapia, he was appointed by Trump. We also have Professor at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, Professor Richard Parker. Let me pick up with you, Professor Parker. This isn't all about what Trump has said. When the president, Biden, said last week that it's time to focus on Trump with a bullseye. Yes, when the American Democrats, the left, say that Trump is an existential threat to the American way of life and to democracy, isn't that there a fact that both sides have so conducted the affairs of American politics over the last 6-8 years that has left the country now with a very fragile democracy?
I honestly don't know how to respond to that. This idea that somehow it's a pox on both your parties and that there is an equal distribution of wrongs misunderstands the entire last 8 or 9 years since Donald Trump has surface on the American political scene. He inaugurated his entry into the political scene by claiming that President Obama was not born in the United States and therefore had no constitutional right to be president, which was a lie right from the beginning. He lied about his supposed election in 2020. We know, attempted to use state officials in states like Georgia, where he told the Secretary of State to just go find another 11,000 votes so that he could take the state's electoral votes. He was the president who spoke at the January 6th insurrection that led to an invasion of the Capitol and to the death of a number of people, including Capitol guards. I don't think that there is anything on the Democratic record that compares with that.
But the point, Professor, is that when you single him out as the greatest threat to American democracy and that everything turns on this election and that if he is elected, all hell will break loose, don't you sort of set him up as that kind of existential threat where people may believe that they have to take him out?
Wouldn't it be better to consider the pattern of speaking by him? And
no, but before we consider, I just want an answer to that question. Do you not believe that the way the Democrats have set him up on a pedestal as an existential threat can cause extremists to believe they need to take him out?
I'm sure that there is that possibility, but I, again, don't understand why you think, as a person of the media, that there is an equitability between the behavior of the two parties.
We're not saying that there's equity here at all. Yes, what we are saying.
Well, I think I don't want to argue this. I think you are, but go ahead.
All right, but bringing back Ambassador Tapia, yes, where does America go?
Let's put it this way. I just heard a political speech on the on the Democratic side instead of facing facts, and that's some of the problems that we have with the young people today. Is professors such as what you're hearing today, because as you said, Biden actually has attacked Trump, and Trump, of course, has attacked during this political poisonous time between the two parties instead of coming together. And I think that we need to come together and stop pointing our fingers at each other. It used to be, at my age, we used to see the Goldwaters and so forth, that they fought like hell on the floors of the Senate and on Congress, and then they walked into the courtroom and had a drink with one another and laughed and told jokes and went to dinner with each other. We don't find that today. If you're a Republican, you don't like Democrats. If you're a Democrat, you don't like Republicans. And that's not the American way of life. We have to come together to say, look, we have our differences. We will always have differences. I have differences with the president of the United States when Donald Trump was president. I had differences with him. I had differences now with Biden when he's on president. There's things that we will never all agree on. If we cannot agree on it, we need to come to a consensus of acceptance of the other person's opinion.
So President Trump says he has rewritten the speech he's to give at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, yes, and he is now wanting to unite the country. First of all, do you believe him? And what should he do to demonstrate that he's serious about that?
I believe that what has taken place, that he understands today that he must do everything to unite the country. To unite the country, and that's bringing the Democrats together and bringing the Republicans together and bringing our politics together. Freedom and liberty is very fragile, and we've seen in other countries how it's been destroyed. We are a great country, and there's no reason why we cannot come together.
When you say freedom,
I have Democratic friends.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
Same question for Professor Parker. Do you believe him when he says he now needs to unite the country? And what must he do? What must he say to convince a lot of people looking on that he, Trump, who has been such a purveyor of violence, violent language if he is to be taken seriously?
Well, I mean, I would reverse and ask you, or use what you have just asked me, to consider whether or not I should believe him, which is that he has been a source of violent language now for years. His politics have been defined by the violence with which he has spoken, the idea that he would be happy to be a dictator on day one of his presidency, his threat to dismantle the American government, the long list of condemnations in which he's engaged that have gone beyond simple disagreement and run into the area of ad hominem attack and attack on fundamental institutions of government and democracy. So do I think that overnight that he has had an epiphanal moment in Butler, Pennsylvania that will make him into a new kind of person as well as a new kind of politician? I don't have reason to believe it. I will be listening carefully as he speaks, trying to judge what has changed, if anything. But at the moment, no.
Mm-hmm. Ambassador, when you say freedom is fragile and liberty is fragile, democracy is fragile, on January 6, 2021, didn't Donald Trump know that when he summoned a mob to Washington and did nothing when they stormed the U.S. Capitol?
And shouted,
if I may,
hang
shouted, the vice president,
hang Mike Pence.
Didn't he know that then, that liberty and freedom and democracy were fragile?
In fact, the vice president's been at my house twice, so just talk about Pence. The first thing is, if you look at it, and if you really read into it, Donald Trump, the president at the time, offered the Speaker of the House, because she is in charge, or the Speaker is in charge of the House. A lot of people don't realize that and don't recognize that. But she says, I can handle it, when he actually volunteered to put a military garrison there at the Capitol. She turned him down. Now, what's the professor got to say about that? She turned him down.
But what do you have to say about the fact that he summoned the problem in the first place? He should have allowed the process to come to run its course as every other American president has before him.
It's not.
Why wasn't he there for the inauguration of President Biden, but instead left early in a characteristically petulant and anti-institutional display of his contempt for the important process of handing off power from a former president to a new president? Where was he? He was in Mar-a-Lago, not in Washington, where he should have been.
Doesn't that show a lack of commitment to...
That's his opinion.
No, but we're asking you, doesn't that show a lack of commitment to the process?
He wasn't there.
Well, I've talked to Pence on many occasions on this issue. Pence would not leave the Capitol. He said, "I'm going to be here," and he stayed there. When Pence, but you got to keep in mind that the president of the United States at that time was Trump, and I'm not defending all of his actions, but he did offer military assistance to the Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi said, "No, I can handle it," and she rejected it. Do you understand? It's like a state, and the professor should know that if something happens in a state, the state has to ask the federal government to come in and see to help them. That's fact. That's the way of government. He cannot just send troops in over the advice or over the will of the governor of the state. Now he studies history. He's a history major, but I've never heard a political speech as I've heard from this person, and that is not what we're looking for. What you're looking for is, how do we bring things together? How do we make things better? Do you believe Donald Trump? Do you believe Joe Biden? Well, if he wants to get political, all he's got to do is look at Joe Biden's history. He has lied, and I don't like saying that about a president. And that's written down, and that's history.
Well, thank you for bringing us together.
Professor?
We need to come together, Republicans and Democrats.
Professor, I heard you say.
Stop this.
Professor?
Again, I'm at a loss. I just heard the ambassador talk about President Biden as lying, and I don't think that that's going to bring people together. If there's a formula...
I agree with that. I do
I'd
not
love to
agree
hear
with
it.
that. I said I do not like saying this about the President of the United States.
Ambassador Tapia,
But you brought up a lot of things against Donald Trump.
Ambassador
And all I'm
Tapia,
saying is, if you look at the history,
But hold on, Ambassador Tapia. Who lies more than Donald Trump? Frankly, in a 90-minute debate, in a 90-minute debate 3 weeks ago, he lied 30 times. 30 times.
what was the issue?
He just kept on lying.
What was the issue?
on a range of issues.
Yes. He lied about what happened on January 6th. He lied about what's happening at the border. He just keeps on lying. He's a congenital liar.
So you're saying that Donald Trump lied about the border?
Donald Trump, I'm saying, Ambassador Tapia, is not familiar with the truth.
Are you contributing to Donald Trump's 2024 campaign, Ambassador?
Donald Trump was building a wall, building a wall to stop the fentanyl and illegals coming across the border. That's fact. What I said about, and I preface it about saying that Biden has lied throughout his career. I said I do not like to say that. I wished I would not have said that, but it's factual. And all I'm doing is trying to talk to you about factual. You can look at that. You can fact check me.
Yes, but you haven't said that Donald Trump is a liar. Proven over and over.
I haven't said that. I haven't. See, you have not pointed out where on January the 6th he offered security for the Capitol.
All right, we're running out of.
I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that.
We're running out of time, and I want to know, Ambassador, are you?
Wait, that's a fact. That's a fact check. Look, you can fact check that.
We will, but we're running out of
You can
time.
fact check that.
Let me ask you this: are you still a donor to Donald Trump?
Am I still a donor
To his campaign.
I donated $1. I have not donated $1 to Donald Trump in this cycle.
If he wins the election, and he asks you to return to your post in Kingston, would you accept?
No.
Why not?
And the reason for it, at my age, I would not return. I have asked if I would return to Jamaica, and I said no, not at my age.
Okay.
Well,
There's
you've
a
been
difference.
asked. Okay.
I think today to show what we need is he picked Vance. Would that be been my pick? Probably not, but yet I pick up that we need new leadership. We need young leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We need people in Vance's age group and so forth to lead us forward.
Yeah.
If you look at the Senate, you look at the leadership, look at the age. Do they understand, and I'm talking about across the board, Republicans and Democrats, do they understand the conditions of the young people today, the people that are struggling to raise a family, to get jobs, in the future of the young one?
Mm-hmm.
That's my point.
Professor Parker, just
Do
before we
I accept it?
complete your
Sorry?
thought, Ambassador. Are you completed?
Well,
Okay. All right.
yeah,
Professor?
I'll say yeah. I'll let the professor spew all his nastiness against the ex-president
Professor
and defend the current president.
Professor Parker, what do you
Well,
make of
I
the...
want to thank the ambassador for the language that would encourage bipartisanship in that last burst against me. I fully agree with the ambassador about the need for younger leaders. I wish that America had a choice between younger leaders. And I'm sorry that you on Jamaica radio have a couple of Medicare-eligible characters carrying out this debate. The country does need to move on, but it needs to move on past Donald Trump, and it needs to move on past the poison that he has injected into the American political system for us to actually have a country of which we can be proud.
What do you make of his vice presidential pick, Senator J.D. Vance, Professor?
Well, I teach at Harvard, and Mr. Vance went to Yale Law, so I suppose there's a limit there to what I can say genteel. But what I would worry about is what reporters will find when they look back on what Vance had to say about President Trump when early on Vance was one of the never-Trumpers. I think Senator Vance should be asked to explain what the epiphanal moment has been that has caused him to flip 180 degrees. But we shall see. The contest is still open, and we've got several months to go.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Professor, I agree with you. That's a question that I think is fair and should be asked. I do. I have no problem with that at all. But yet I look at where he teaches at Harvard. Look what happened at Harvard between Israel and the Palestinians.
Okay, that's for another occasion. Former U.S. ambassador to Jamaica.
It's another
Tapia.
occasion, but yet it still falls back on education. It falls back on what's being taught within our university.
For another evening, we're out of time, Ambassador Tapia. We also need to say thanks to Senior Fellow at the Shorenstein Center at Harvard Kennedy School of Government, Professor Richard Parker. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
My thanks to you, and my thanks to the ambassador.
Thank you,
gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
We ended on a bit of unity there. So that's good. A bit of bipartisanship.